everyone, welcome back to Venusian Scorp Astrology and Tarot. If you're new here, my name is Venusian Scorp and I talk about different aspects related to astrology and tarot. So go ahead and subscribe if you like to, and like and share this video if you like it. I do want to mention that I offer astrology chart readings as well as tarot readings. So if you'd like to book a session with me, you can definitely contact me on email. The link is in the description box below. So let's get started with the video. So today we are going to be talking about Venus and Scorpio with the various moon signs. So with each of the moon signs, how do the individual combinations play out? So this was a request from one of my subscribers on YouTube. They wanted this video, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about this a little bit. So let's start with each of the moon signs. So if you have, just let's talk about Venus and Scorpio in general a little bit, and then we can deep dive into each of the signs. So Venus and Scorpio, so Venus represents love and relationships in a birth chart. It represents how you attract a partner, what is the kind of partner that you prefer in a relationship. It's your romantic nature, it's also your style and aesthetic, like your fashion sense as well. It's also related to money matters because Venus also rules money. And when you have Venus in Scorpio, Scorpio is a water sign, it's a fixed water sign, and it's a sign of extremes. So Venus in Scorpio, the thing about Venus in Scorpio is Venus does very well in the opposite sign, that is Taurus, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Libra. But it doesn't do so well in Scorpio because Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars and co-ruled by Pluto. These are very masculine, aggressive, assertive energies. And Venus just likes to enjoy herself, and everything should be peaceful and harmonious and nice. And so when Venus is placed in this kind of a sign, which is all about extremes, which is all about chaos and transformation, it doesn't really do very well here. It's a complex placement, and it does require a fair bit of navigation, with respect to various challenges. So, but it has its own rewards as well. So let's talk about Venus and Scorpio with each of the moon signs. So let's start with Aries moon. So if you have a Venus in Scorpio with an Aries moon, it would make you someone who is a bit more impulsive than a lot of other Venus in Scorpios out there, because Aries moon is it's a fire sign, and it's known to be impulsive. It's a cardinal sign, and it's a fire sign. It's the very first sign of the zodiac as well. They are known to be initiators, so you may jump into relationships fairly quickly because of that Aries enthusiasm. You want to plunge into the relationship and see what it's all about. There's a lot of childlike enthusiasm when you get into a relationship initially, and then the Venus and Scorpio side might take over, which is all about the depth and the intensity, and there may be secrets and mysteries and things like that. So that's Scorpio characteristic. And the Aries moon may be quite impulsive. You may like arguments, actually. This is one of those placement combinations that may like play fighting, or like fights in a relationship as a way to sort of make up after that, patch up after that. So that may be something that you enjoy, but eventually it may take a toll on your Venus and Scorpio nature, because Scorpio, at the end of the day, it's a fixed sign and it does like a fair bit of stability. So that Aries moon, the tendency to always charge ahead and plunge into a relationship without really thinking things through, that can eventually take a toll on it, because if you realize the partner is not right for you, it may cause the Venus and Scorpio side to feel quite betrayed and hurt. But I would say that you are less likely to hold grudges or harbor any kind of resentment compared to the other moon sign placements, because Aries moon doesn't really do that. Aries moon, they may fight, or they may want to take it all out on their partner, like lash out in the heat of the moment, but they don't harbor any long-term resentments or grudges. So that's a little bit about this combination. Let's talk about the Taurus moon with Venus and Scorpio. So when you have a Venus in Scorpio with a Taurus moon, this gives you a tremendous need for security and stability in a relationship, because both Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs, and fixed signs in general have a tendency to want a little bit of predictability, security, and stability in their relationships. And with the Taurus moon, that need for security and stability is even more, because Taurus traditionally rules the second house of the zodiac, which is all about the material possessions, and it's an earth sign. It's a fixed earth sign, so it's as earthy and as fixed as you can get. So there is a stubbornness about you when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to the core values in a relationship, because it's Taurus we're talking about, second house. Second house has to do with self esteem. What are your values in life? So there are certain principles and values that you hold very dear to you, and you're not going to compromise on them. And so, when you're in a romantic relationship, you would expect your partner to be the same, or at least respect your boundaries and the principles that you hold. But once you're committed in a relationship, you're extremely loyal, you're very faithful, because these are two fixed signs that we're talking about. So, there is nothing impulsive about this combination. You really take your time when you want to get into a relationship, you're never in a rush. And Taurus hates to be rushed. So, if you are with somebody who is rushing you to be into a relationship, that's going to really put things off really quickly. You may want to detach from the relationship quicker than you started it, because that's something that Taurus moons hate. They hate being rushed. So you like to take your time, and there are certain. The thing about Taurus and Scorpio is they both like to test their partners, and this is something a lot of people don't talk about Taurus, because usually tests are assigned to the Venus and Scorpio or Scorpio placements. But Taurus also does that, but they do it in a very different way, and it's more subtle, it's more low key, but it's definitely there. They are definitely sussing out their partner and seeing if they are right for them for the long haul. Because when you've got this combination, you look at relationships for the long haul, and there's also an element of practicality involved. It's definitely not just the superficial frivolous part of it. You want something concrete in a relationship. You're not going to go for something that's just lighthearted and fun. So there has to be depth. It has to be for the long haul. These are very important to you. Let's talk about Gemini moon with Venus in Scorpio. So, if you've got a Venus in Scorpio with a Gemini moon, then it gives you a bit of an interesting characteristic in your personality. When you're in a relationship, you want a nice mix between intellectual stimulation and conversation and the depth and intensity that a Venus in Scorpio craves. So, you might want a partner who has both these qualities, who is able to carry on a witty conversation with you, because Gemini rules the third house, which is about communication. And with the moon there, you definitely need regular communication, especially witty communication, intellectual communication. That's very important to you, because it is an air sign, and air signs are very cerebral in nature. So you like that. You like a partner who's able to carry on intelligent conversations with you. Lack of intelligence would be a big turn off for you. As a Gemini moon, that is a big thing for you. You do like intelligence in a partner, much more than a lot of the other Venus and Scorpios out there. So you like intellectual conversations, but at the same time, you if it's always at the superficial level, which your Gemini moon may like. Actually, with the Gemini moon, you may be okay with superficial relationships to an extent. Like, you may like the witty banter and things like that, and the jokes and all that. But after a point, your Venus and Scorpio side is going to take over and want the depth and the intensity that a Venus and Scorpio craves in a relationship. So it's a fine balance, being able to strike a balance between these two. It's a fine line, basically trying to strike a balance between these two. So that's something to keep in mind. When let's talk about Cancer moon with Venus and Scorpio. So if you've got a Venus and Scorpio with a Cancer moon, then this is going to give you a deeply emotional nature, because we're talking about two water signs here. And Cancer, the moon does really well in Cancer. It's very it is the natural ruler of the sign of Cancer. So as a Venus in Scorpio and Cancer moon, you're going to have very intense and deep emotions, which are amplified with the Venus in Scorpio nature. And this, you may be the kind of person who is very sensitive in nature, because it's a water moon at the end of the day. So you may be very sensitive to whatever your romantic partner says to you, or if they say something hurtful, it can really leave a deep impact compared to a lot of the other Venus and Scorpios out there. So you have very intense emotions. That Venus and Scorpio side is all about intensity. There may be a lot of mood swings as well, because we're talking about the Cancer moon here, and the moon waxes and wanes. It's a changeable energy. So your moods, your emotional nature may change on a day-to-day basis. And you need a partner who offers a certain level of stability to you, because you are so watery in nature. Like your Venus is in a water sign, your moon is in a water sign. You need someone with more stability, or who can provide that kind of a rock to you when you are going through these emotional ups and downs. But at the same time, I will say that you do want someone who will appreciate and reciprocate the nice things that you do for them, because as a Cancer moon, you go the extra mile for your relationships. You definitely give a lot. You are a nurturer. So you want someone who's going to appreciate and show that reciprocation back to you. If you don't get the appreciation, it can leave you feeling very resentful and even bitter and hurt. Feelings of jealousy are also common with this placement, because we're talking about water signs here. It's all about emotions. Let's move on to the Leo moon with Venus in Scorpio. So, if you're a Venus in Scorpio with the Leo moon, it gives you a very interesting combination of, having the or wanting the depth and intensity that a Venus in Scorpio craves, along with the dramatic flair that a Leo moon naturally has. So, it's a bit of a tug of war that happens internally for you, because it's the moon we're talking about. It's your internal emotions. So, you may simultaneously like the attention and like the spotlight that a Leo moon generally does, but at the same time, the Venus in Scorpio is going to want you to be very private about things, especially about your romantic relationships. Like, you may not want to give out too much information, so you may be much more private compared to a lot of the other Leo moons out there. Leo moons can be a little bit dramatic sometimes, like you may exaggerate things quite a bit sometimes. Just like the Aries moon, you may like to instigate arguments, but it's all harmless. It's not with any kind of vengeance or malice attached to it. It's just you like that kind of drama in the relationship from time to time, because it kind of keeps things interesting. So you may want a partner who can keep up with this, who is also a bit dramatic, or someone who doesn't really get carried away by your dramatic nature. I think that would be very interesting to you, because maybe you're so used to people who are also dramatic. Having that kind of a contrast would be nice, would be a nice change for you, like having someone who kind of offsets that dramatic nature that you have. That would be very interesting. But you do have a very generous heart and generous spirit. You're naturally very charismatic. People are drawn to you, and you can be very possessive as well, because this is also a fixed sign. Leo is a fixed sign. They're known to be very loyal. So you are going to be quite possessive in a relationship, that's for sure. Let's talk about Virgo moon with the Venus in Scorpio. So this gives a very interesting nature of someone who is craving the intensity that a Venus and Scorpio usually wants in the relationship, but at the same time, you're going to be very critical. You may nitpick a lot, because Virgo is about the details, and it's also ruled by Mercury. And so you may always look at the details quite a lot. Like, you may be critical of yourself, your partner, the relationship. You may have certain ideas about how the relationship should work. Um, you may be very focused on the practical matters, which is a very interesting contrast with the Venus and Scorpio nature, which is emotional and which doesn't really care about the practical nature so much as the emotional bonding. Because Venus and Scorpio is big on that. They like that emotional bonding with their partners. And so, if you have the Virgo moon as well, you're going to be slightly less focused on the emotional bonding. That will definitely be there, but the Virgo moon is going to want to be more practical, more focused on the details, the everyday things that happen in the relationship. That's going to be important to you. You may be a bit of a perfectionist in terms of the kind of partner you want. You may have certain qualities that you want in a partner, and you may want them to live up to that. This is where you may sabotage relationships if you're not careful, because if you're trying to think of a partner as a project, because Virgo and Pisces both can do that. That's the axis that we're talking about here. So if you look at partners as projects to fix, quote unquote, fix, or that kind of thing, that may backfire, because that's not a healthy relationship. So that's something to just keep in mind. It doesn't happen in all of these placements, but it's just something to keep in mind. But otherwise, you're very giving. Like, your love language is acts of service. So when you're with a partner, you will do everything to keep them happy, and especially you will do a lot of practical things for them that make their life easier. And if your partner doesn't appreciate those little things that you do for them, that's going to be a major turn off for you, because you do a lot for your partner. You're an earth sign, and you are a service oriented sign. So if you're not getting the kind of appreciation that you want from your partner, then that's going to be a big dampener to your spirit, and you may lose an interest eventually. Let's talk about the next one, which is Libra moon with Venus in Scorpio. This is interesting because the Libra moon side of you wants harmony, wants peace in a relationship. You know, it's ruled by Venus, so it's like you want pleasantries in the relationship. You want everything on an even keel. You want equality. You want things to be just and fair. You know, nobody should feel disgruntled. Communication is a big part of this because just like the Gemini moon, you are also an air sign. Libra is an air sign, and it's very big on communication. And so, if there are any issues in the relationship, you would be the kind of Venus and Scorpio that wants to talk things out, compared to a lot of the other Venus and Scorpio placements who may not want to do that. Like a lot of the other placements, which I will talk about in a bit, they may clam up if there are issues in the relationship. A lot of Venus and Scorpios may just shut down. You know, but as a Libra moon, you're very open to communication. So that's a plus side. You want to communicate and sort things out. The other thing is this can present a bit of a contrast for you or a difficulty for you because Libra and Scorpio are very different in their natures. Like Libra wants peace and harmony. It's all about equilibrium, you know, maintaining the balance. It's the scales, like the symbol for Libra is scales. But Scorpio is all about extremes. They don't really care about balance. If balance is a byproduct, it's fine, but it's not a big deal for Scorpio. Scorpio wants to dive the depths, and if the result of that is total chaos, then so be it. They really don't care about the kind of balance that Libra does. So this presents a challenge for you because you will have to constantly balance these two sides of yourself. One side of you wanting balance and harmony and peace in the relationship, and the other side, which is this Venus and Scorpio side, which is going to want to disrupt things because Scorpio is a bit of a disruptive energy. It's ruled by Mars and Pluto, and it regularly goes through cycles of chaos and transformation. That's how they evolve in the relationship. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge for you because your Libra side is going to want to maintain the peace, while the Venus and Scorpio side is going to want to stir things up, or like, you know, just sometimes you may want to cause unnecessary conflict in the relationship just to see if the relationship can even withstand these kind of conflicts. That's something that a Venus in Scorpio can do, but as a Libra moon, it's going to aggravate your peace loving nature. So it's just something to keep in mind to balance the two energies. Let's talk about the next one, which is Scorpio moon with Venus and Scorpio. This is a double placement of Scorpio. So this is going to magnify the scorpionic energies that we are talking about here. So Venus and Scorpio, as it is in a singular placement, it gives you this um, very intense personality when it comes to your romantic relationships. And with the Scorpio moon there, it's even more amplified, that Scorpio nature. So you may be very possessive in a relationship. You may hide your feelings as well. As a Venus and Scorpio, most Venus and Scorpios, they are not openly, you know, they're not open to displaying their affections that early on. They usually guard themselves quite well. And as a Scorpio moon, you may do that extremely well because you've learned from a very young age that it may not be very wise to share your feelings that openly because someone somewhere down the line would have hurt you. That's what the Scorpio moon does usually. Those individuals have gone through some kind of trauma either in this lifetime or in the past lifetime, and it's a carry forward. So it's a karmic imprint. And so they grow up with that whole trust. They grow up with a lot of trust issues as well, and the Venus in Scorpio kind of amplifies that. So when you are entering into a relationship, you are going to be the proverbial Scorpio, as they call it. You're going to put your partner through a lot of tests. You may hide your emotions. There may be a lot of chaos and turbulence in the relationship. Your partners may not really know where they stand with you at the beginning of the relationship because you take your time. Just like the Taurus moon, even the Scorpio moon takes their time in getting into a relationship because they, again, it's in it for the long haul. They're not here for any kind of frivolous relationship. So you definitely take your time. And with the Scorpio moon, there may be a lot of secrets as well. You may not share everything with your partner, but once you're in, you're in. This is a very all or nothing placement, especially this combination because we are talking about two Scorpio placements here. So once you're in, you're in. There's no turning back. And with this combination, we often look at, like, you may actually want relationships that are very, very challenging to the point of being extremely disruptive as well, very agitating as well, because that kind of floats your boat. Like Scorpio thrives on chaos and transformation. So you may be the kind of person that likes that. So if you're with a partner who is very even keel, very peace loving, that may not work out because you like that kind of agitation sometimes in the relationship. And also, you may actually thrive on that kind of transformation. So you may put your partner or the relationship through a lot of challenges, or the relationship itself may go through a lot of challenges just to see if it can withstand that level of pressure. Because Scorpio is all about, shining, the diamond in the rough, going through critical challenges in a relationship and seeing if it's going to withstand all that. So you may put your relationship through a lot of that as well. So, but don't do it to the extremes, because that can really leave your partner feeling extremely emotionally drained, because not everybody is like that or even understands those kind of depths. So it's important to strike a balance. Let's talk about the next placement, which is Sagittarius moon with Venus in Scorpio. This is interesting because it's going to present a kind of dichotomy within your emotional nature and your need in a romantic relationship. Your Venus in Scorpio side of you wants the intense depths in a relationship and that deep emotional bonding. But the Sagittarius moon is going to crave independence, freedom, the ability to do as you please, wander where you will, and come back home. So you definitely want space and independence and freedom in a relationship. You want a partner who can give you that. You don't like extreme clinginess or neediness that kind of turns you off. And so it's important to strike a balance. And you may often internally go through these push pull scenarios where you're drawn to a partner and then you want your space and you want to just move away from the relationship or travel or do whatever, like, have your independence and then come back. And so that's something to keep in mind. But a lot of people get Sagittarius wrong. They think that Sagittarius is all about independence and they don't really care about settling down, but that's not true. Once Sagittarians are in a relationship, they're very serious about it. And the thing about both Sagittarius and Scorpio is they are truth seekers. Although the way they look for the truth is very different. The Scorpio is going to dive deep and investigate, research, all of that. They're going to look beneath the shadows for the truth. But Sagittarius is looking upwards to the sky. They want real life experiences. They're going to go out there and live their life and learn the truth. So both are looking for the same thing at the end of the day, but it's in very different ways. So it's about striking the balance between the wanting freedom and independence and actually being able to have a sustainable relationship that the Venus in Scorpio really craves. Because Scorpio is a fixed sign, Sagittarius is a mutable sign, and these are very different energies. Let's talk about the next one, which is the Capricorn moon with the Venus in Scorpio. This is interesting. You have the Capricorn moon, which is very known. It doesn't do well here. Capricorn, the moon doesn't do very well in Capricorn. It does very well in the opposite sign, Cancer. So you may have a hard time showing your emotions in a relationship because that Capricorn moon makes you appear a little bit cold and aloof in relationships. Although that is absolutely not the case. You are extremely attached in a relationship with the Venus in Scorpio placement. You are just like a typical Venus in Scorpio. You want all that emotional bonding and the intensity in the relationship and things like that. But that Capricorn moon is going to want you to focus on more practical matters, because Capricorn rules the 10th house. It's a Saturnian house, so it is about worldly affairs, public image, status, things like that. It's CEO energy, boss energy, and no free lunch, workaholic, that kind of energy. So you may actually sometimes look at relationships as a stepping stone for something better in your life. Like, you may look at relationships as sort of a tool to achieve something more in life, maybe better status, more money, better public image. So you may choose partners who add some kind of value to your life, because Capricorn is all about that. It's an earth sign, it's a practical sign, and it's ruling the 10th house, which is a very public house. It's all on display. So you want someone who's going to add tangible value to your life. That's something very big with this placement. But be careful not to sort of quote unquote look at relationships only as a tool, quote unquote tool, because that can leave your Venus in Scorpio feeling deprived, because Venus in Scorpio wants real connections. It's not so much focused on the practical side of things. It wants emotional bonding. And if you focus too much on the Capricorn moon side of things, then you may lose out on the kind of rewards that you may get if you focus on the emotional parts of it. So that's something to keep in mind. But you are Another one of those placements that is very, very serious about relationships. You don't take relationships lightly. You are in it for the long haul. So once you're committed in the relationship, you are definitely there 100%. And it's usually uh, practically driven. So you're going to initiate things. You're a cardinal moon sign. Capricorn is a cardinal sign. So you're going to want to initiate things and drive things forward and take things to the next level. Let's talk about the next one, which is Aquarius moon with Venus in Scorpio. So as an Aquarius moon, you may want to be more detached. You may want relationships that are very unconventional or different, quote unquote different from what quote unquote normal looks like, if there is such a word, so you may want relationships that are like that. You may like partners who have some level of interesting personalities to themselves. You want a lot of intellectual conversation and stimulation as well. You're an air sign, so you're very cerebral. You want that in a partner. You like intellectual conversations. At the same time, so it's a balance. You need to strike the balance between the intensity that the Venus in Scorpio craves and the detachment and the airiness of Aquarius. So you may want to balance out these two energies by taking time out to regularly nurture these two sides of yourself. So you have the Venus in Scorpio side, which wants that emotional depth and intensity, and then you have the Aquarius moon, which wants to detach for a bit and do their thing and then come back. It's similar to the Sagittarius moon, but it's not quite, because Aquarius is more cerebral, it's more intellectual. So you want intellectual conversations with your partner. Just like the Gemini moon, you appreciate intelligence in a partner. Lack of knowledge is going to turn you off big time. Let's talk about Pisces moon with Venus and Scorpio. This is a very, very selfless, loving, giving placement. Pisces moon makes you extremely sensitive. You may be very psychic. You're very tuned into your partner's needs and emotions. You're a service oriented sign, just like Virgo. But be careful not to have that kind of martyr savior complex, like fixer upper kind of thing, where you try to save people, quote unquote, from any kind of issues that they may have. A lot of the times, you may actually get into relationships this way. Like, you may find a partner who needs some kind of help or some kind of quote unquote saving, and then you kind of fall in love with them because of that. But be careful of that, because that's not a very healthy way to attach to someone. But your emotional nature is very deep. You are a water sign, and you are extremely psychic. It's very difficult to fool you or pull the wool over your eyes. You can see through people immediately. That's a bit about this placement. So that's what I have for you for all the 12 moon signs. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to book a reading with me, definitely contact me on email, and I will get back to you soon. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.